Hold on, folks. On the wrong screen. Good afternoon again. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, is sip in a rant, because God. When I tell you the dregs of humanity lurk on Twitter, the dregs of humanity lurk on Twitter. Maybe it's because I'm autistic. But you neurotypicals like to point out how we're so weird and we're so wrong, there's something wrong with us. But at the same time, you all continue to be slave to your narratives. Not truth, narratives. Whether you're on the right, left, center, or what have you, you will tout your garbage, hateful bull with a full chest. You provide no evidence for your position. You do not honestly present yourself for an actual, genuine debate. Just smear. And once again, I'm the bad guy because there's my autistic butt sitting there and be like, hello, hi, how you doing? Evidence. Because I don't operate off narratives. I don't care one way or the other. What's your facts? What do your facts look like? What's your evidence? Okay? Yeah, and maybe it's because I'm autistic. I don't know. I do have empathy. In fact, I'm one of those individuals who have super empathy. I do. I just don't allow myself to knee-jerk react to anything. If there is an actual injustice going on, you better believe I'm going in all guns blazing. Case in point, what I'm doing on here every single day. But the difference between going after something like the JRC or believing they're coming for our children, or on the other side, believe all women. I don't get along with either crowd. Because I'm of a getting ever smaller every single day crowd of individuals who want to know your facts, not your feelings. It's unfortunately a way of being that is starting to slowly erode away into nothing, like the way of the dodo. I don't understand this mentality to not be open to new evidence, new facts, new data, new science. Why it is so difficult to put your own prejudice and bias aside for 2 seconds, to review things when new evidence and facts and data come forward. In my ideal world, when new facts, evidence, and data come forward, you can admit that you were wrong due to not having all the facts. Review that evidence and act accordingly. You can't do that anymore. People like us autistics, what are we painted as? Black and white thinkers, right? Unchanging, right? But here's the difference, neurotypical society. The majority of the autistics and other neurodivergent that I know are willing, hear me, willing, and have proved on multiple occasions to adjust our forms of thinking or our opinion on a matter in light of new evidence coming forward. most of us will refrain from having an opinion on something one way or the other until there's facts and evidence on the table. That's not black and white thinking. That's not black and white thinking at all. I feel like it's something where, once again, neurotypicals in the medical world are projecting what they do onto us. Now, are there certain things that, in my opinion, we're rigid on? Yes. We need routines to survive. Our routines need to have routines. And some of us, as we get older, will learn how to make alternate routines just should something go in our lives and fly in sideways like a monkey wrench. Sometimes we cannot adjust fast enough, and autistic fog. That's true. That's rigid. It has to be. But when we are talking about social issues or a criminal case or a defamation case or atrocities being committed, we're the guys sitting there saying, okay, what are your facts? Autistica Hoya's massive archive on the subject is a testament to how far we are willing to go to dig up, get our hands on the facts and evidence of any particular case. Only after we have done hours upon hours, and hear me folks on this, hours of our own research, do we feel comfortable enough to be on one side or another of any particular issue. We're not slaves to anyone's narrative. Nor are we trying to push our own in spite of how many times we've been accused of it. Just something that annoys me. Quit being slaves to narratives. Quit being slaves to agendas. Do your own homework and make sure you look at yourself long and hard in the mirror and start taking each case, regardless of what the case it is, on its own merits instead of trying to, fit it into what narrative or side you're siding with. The mark of growth of an individual is a person who is able to accept when they are wrong, when new facts come to light, and adjust accordingly. That's growth and progression. What is a regression, and if you see it, you look out in society, and my God, people, unless you live under the rock, you can see this regression that we're living in, where everybody's slaves to agendas. To the point that they can't allow themselves to be open to new information and adjust accordingly. Because they've put their heart and soul, and they've made their whole personality based and centered around an agenda or a narrative. And look at our state of our world because of it. All right, to the disclaimers. In the description box, folks, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much. They have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Allergies. Also included in there, the Ozarks' first article in regards to the Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation. Congestion is fun, folks. A so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has been pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and folks, that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises with full access to the boys, up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and trying and failing to defund public libraries to actually do his job, and you got a governor off his nut. So send help, read that article, share it on all your social media. Also included in there, all the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including the link to this particular analysis done on the Judge Rotenberg Center by Dr. Fredda back in 1999, Autistica's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org shut the Judge Rotenberg Center down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, folks, all right? Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is very much advised, all right? I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but we'll see here. The bathroom's next. I actually managed to clean the whole living room. I'm on a roll. Contact with non-disabled peers. This is one of the things that I'm emphasizing, and this is something that the JRC 100% does not do. And no, JRC field trips are not enough. They're not nearly enough. You know it. When you create a school like that, where everything's done in the bubble, you're not going out into the community in order to get haircuts. They're in-house. You're not taking the kids to a community movie theater. You have it in-house. You're not taking kids to an actual Pizza Hut to have a pizza party. You're having it in-house. You are putting these kids in a bubble. Even in the best of circumstances, even in a place that is not torturing those kids to death, it's not good. It's isolation, folks. It's isolating these kids through the reality from their own communities. You can't establish strong relationships within your community when you're being holed up away from your community. To create those connections, there needs to be constant social interaction. Granted, not to the amount that we kind of want to, run through the streets screaming, help, I can't deal with people. Because believe me, I've had those moments. I've had to suppress those moments. That's fun. The point is, if you create a world off by itself, kept away from the world, you cannot create meaningful connections out into the communities of these kids. It can't be done. Because in order to create ties within the community, you have to be able to go into the community. Everyone knows this. But let's read through this, shall we? There do not appear to be any planned contacts with students who are not disabled. This is a goal that is clearly stated in the IDEA. It was stated in mine, for God's sakes, folks. It was literally stated in mine. In fact, my interest in the rights of my fellows was used to help me build those ties to the non-disabled community out there. People who are not like me out there in the community. Those very ties that we worked to build from my treatment program was how, in its own way, eventually led to my career within the system. Funny how that works, right? Also, a second part of it is you need that community integration if you're going to build a wider circle of support. Okay? It's best to have those safe people out in the community. When I can't have my mother with me 24/7. I'm pushing 40, folks. Majority of this stuff I do on my own because my program prepared me for that. I handle all my own medical, all my own bills, all my banking, all my stocks, bonds, what have you, because that was the success of my program. And I wasn't even in it technically very long. You gotta be able to expose us to interacting with others that are not of our own kind. Because the world is not filled with only neurodivergent folks. More's to pity. It's filled mainly with neurotypicals. And we're going to have to learn to be able to deal with that. We can't learn to deal with that if we are being closed off from them. But let's continue to read. Research demonstrates that children, even the most severe disabilities, can benefit from participation and inclusion with his or her non-disabled peers on both social and academic dimensions. Dugan, 1995, Harrington, Breen, 1992, Hunt et al., 1994. The IEP does not refer to objectives that would even prepare X to interact with peers. Okay. Again, most programs starting between, whether you're starting at the very beginning or you're centering around transition age, we have to learn to deal with our neurotypical peers because our neurotypical peers make up the majority of the population of this planet. They're the majority in our communities. They're the majority on the planet. Closing us off from that and trapping us off in your psychosphere bad acid trip world where everything is catered to does not promote any form of expanding ourselves to be able to interact in meaningful ways with our neurotypical peers. So even if you're in a halfway decent program, when you close your students off in that way, some people do it for convenience. I understand that to a point. There's a reason why, especially with autistics and our IEPs and the IDEA, that it is one of the stipulations to build those relationships with our non-disabled peers, folks. Because the world is full of them. And as Foamy at Ill Will Press says, we're going to have to work together on this. You can't work together on anything when you completely isolate us from the rest of the world. You can't forge strong community ties when you're holed off in your own world. This is something that my mom had to beat into my head because I wanted to be stuck in my books. Okay? And if you want to believe there was a struggle there, my poor mom. Better off for it, granted, but boy, you should have told. see me when she told me, okay, but you get an hour of reading per night only. You have to get out and interact with the family and go out in public. You want to talk about fumes coming from me back then. Woo! I was pissed. But she was right. I had to be able to get out there and interact with my neurotypical peers. I wasn't going to be making any community ties, holed up in my room, reading all the time alone. You can only build those ties out in the community by being out in the community. If you hold them off in that school, where's the social interaction with our non-disabled peers? Where's that more inclusive education setting where the inputs of our neurotypical peers can actually help us out? Because weirdly enough, much as a nerd and as fine, I'll toot my own horn, as intelligent as I happen to be, there were some concepts I had some very hard time being able to wrap my brain around. So I needed a neurotypical splain. Needed a neurotypical translator to make it make sense. You know, if you want to be able to actually truly prepare these kids for a real independent life, you can't do it in a bubble. You can't. Because part of real life, part of being out here in the real world, for me, for others like me, is you got to be able to have some ties outside of your own community. Yes, I'm talking the disability community. All of us know this. If you hold these kids off in isolation and take care of every single need in-house so that there's no need to go out in the community and prepare us to be able to take care of those same needs out in the community once we graduate, you are stunting us. You're stunting us for life. I'm going to close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I must now proceed to go and attack the bathroom. Caesar, we who are about to die salute you. Bye-bye.